I'm Mary Pat Palmer, and I have the Philo School of Herbal Energetics here in Philo, California. And I make hydrosols as one of the products that I make and send out into the world. And those hydrosols, it means basically water solution. And I make them of many, many different plants. And I also have been known to experiment with different alcoholic distillations, absinthe and other, and I make my own grappa often. So Zay asked about Salvia Divinorum, or divine sage, sacred sage. It's one of the many plants. We have co-evolved with all of the plants, but this is one of the plants that we have co-evolved with that has been used for spiritual journeys and for greater understanding of ourselves, the universe, and our place in the universe. And I think one of the things is first to look at the leaves themselves of this plant. So this is a very young leaf. You can see it's small. It's a very spring growth color, very lots of yellow in it as a young one. And this one is a little older, and I think what I see happening in this plant almost right away is the development of the veins. So whereas our younger ones, the veins are quite small and not distinct, but you'll see as we pass through these leaves getting older, you'll see the wonder of the venous structure of these plants. So here's another one, again a little bit older, pretty much the same leaf formation, pretty much that long oval. The leaves aren't actually serrated. These edges here are more rounded, which is interesting in itself. And then this one is a little older, and what we see about it, like many of us who age, it's rounder. It's added a little breadth to its length. And again, beginning here, this is where I see the beginning of a very supernatural or supranatural distinction with the leaf. So I suspect that, at least for me personally, this is a plant where the older leaves will speak to me more. And that it would be interesting to know if that changes with people's ages and when they're the same age as the plant, as the leaf. But again, this really beautiful development in the leaf and the increasing clarity of the veins of this leaf. Mm-hmm. The plants that we took these from are alive and growing. Zay and I were both very careful to not harm the plants, and out in the wild they would be dying at this point in fall. So we are, even though it's going to be very hard to process them on an emotional level, it will be difficult. We're going to rip them, which is not easy. Little ones we can drop in. And I want them to be in smaller pieces so that when we're making the extraction, and I should add that the extraction we're making at this point is simply an alcohol and water extraction. It is not a distillation. The distillation will come later. Okay, so Zay and I have taken the leaves, and now the leaves are in here. And we're going to add a high-grade alcohol to this, and in this case our high-grade alcohol is Everclear. The important thing when you're making an alcohol extraction, and again it's a high alcohol because that's what this plant needs. We put the beautiful Salvia Divinorum leaves, we put those into this jar on October 18th of this year, 2012. And we're now on November 15th, almost a full month later, we are doing the second part of the process. And the second part of the process is to distill in our copper still, is to distill the Salvia Divinorum and in the mix of alcohols that were here. And to distill it, we will pour the entire contents of this with the leaves. So we are adding this wonderful Bink Anderson Valley wine, and I'm looking to go in the kettle. I want to be just about to the bottom of here. Okay, so now we have the still is set up. This is a copper alembic still, and the copper alembic still goes into this cup that has a coil, a copper coil that goes down to the bottom. During the process, cold water goes into this cup, and the cold water is what keeps this from overheating. Okay, obviously this is a high alcohol content, so what happens when fire meets alcohol is flame. So we definitely want to work on not having this not having it overheat, not having it explode, and so on. Exploding is not fun. I use also of my own device. This is protective in two ways. One way, obviously, if there is an explosion, I will be protected from the explosion. And the other is wind. At the moment, we don't have any wind, but should wind come up, I'll clip this and no wind can get in that way. We will know that from the flame under the kettle. So we'll go ahead, get this going. That's it. We have flame. So we have the elements, the alchemical elements that we need. We have the copper kettle, the copper alembic still, we have flame, and we have water. So we're looking at this elemental earth, air, fire, water. We have all of the elements working with us. We have to wait until we see some of the distillation. Okay, so the distillation, we can take this off till it's going more. The distillation, what it involves is the alcoholic mix, the tincture is in here in the kettle. It comes up this dome that's kind of like a mosque. It comes up that, it travels across here as steam. It's going to come up here as steam. As it comes down here, it hits the cold water and recondenses and will come out as a liquid. And that's a distilled alcohol. When we distill an alcohol, it becomes stronger. That's the basic understanding of it. So what we have in the kettle will be stronger after it has come through the still. From the wines, like the Bink that you saw, I will use those wines through the still on their own to make a grappa, and then the grappa is the basis for some of the tinctures. And of course the tinctures are the basis for some of the alcohol distillation. So it all kind of works together, keep it in the valley as much as possible. So what we see, Katie is the water witch, and she's keeping this cool, keeping it so it recondenses well. You can, I don't know if you can see, but it's starting to fill up. The alcohol is coming in, it's very clear. It's constant. We pretty much at this point keep constant water. Good time of year to be doing this in the fall when we have more water rather than a dead of summer when we don't. But it's filling up. It's a pretty good rate of fill. I have a adjuster over here. I have a little key that I turn to make the flame hotter or lower. I'm pretty happy with it right now. So there's a bucket here, and the water witch takes care of the bucket as well, empties it. a very important job, because if I can't keep an eye on the kettle, let's say it got too hot, this would blow off, it would explode. So I keep an eye on, while Katie's doing that, I'm keeping an eye that there's no rocking, there's no evidence of a buildup of pressure. There's no water or alcohol coming through there, and there's none coming through here, although that's less important. It doesn't matter as much if that one gets a little wet, but it matters a lot if this one does. So that's it. Now we wait. Now we're just watching it fill. Again, Joan Baez, watch those kettles filling up. That's what we're doing. And again, this will be a strong, a very strong, alcohol-wise, it's going to be a very strong mix. It has a very sweet taste, by the way. I'm glad you're here, Zay. I wasn't thinking when I tasted it, but it was a small taste. Seems to be fine. And it's got a very nice sweetness to it. Very, part of that, of course, is going to be from the wine, but part of it, obviously, it's the taste of the Salvia Divinorum itself, and it's a very, very wonderful taste. So that's really interesting. That I did not know. Of course, the sages, hard to go wrong with any of the sages. Very hard to go wrong. They are magic. Sages are very good for the bloodstream. They are, okay, I'm going to stop it. Done. Sages are really good for the bloodstream. Obviously, for us elders, the sage is the plant we want as the elders. So we're stopping. It's a little bit before noon. That was about a 20-minute run. And we have 1,500 milliliters, or what do we call it on this side? And it's nice and cool. That's important too. I think we're okay. I think we're done. Yeah, about 6.5 cups. So that's it. That's the process of the Salvia Divinorum. We shall now discover what happens, what this